Let's see what's out there.
Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There Live, an entertainment live stream focused on film and television. And in particular, on today's episode, we are going to be looking at Star Trek Picard. So, warning ahead that we are going to have spoilers for the entire series because it has been it streamed a few weeks back now. It's been finished for a few weeks. It is available to watch in its entirety on Paramount Plus or Amazon Prime, depending on where you are geographically. And in this, we're, as I said, going to have a retrospective look at the series. So we're going to be spoiling all of Picard and no doubt other areas of Star Trek as well. But presumably, if you're here watching this tonight, you are probably quite into Star Trek anyway. So we might not be spoiling that much. My name's Keith Isles. I am an independent filmmaker and lifelong enthusiast of film and television, and in particular Star Trek. So welcome. If this is your first time here, then please, if you like this sort of thing, do consider giving the channel a thumbs up. Giving us a like would really help us. Also, I'm at the approximately 700 subscriber mark at the moment, and I'm really trying to get to that golden 1,000 subscribers that everybody who are content creators on YouTube are striving for. So if indeed you do find what we're talking about today and anything else you might find on this channel interesting, please do consider subscribing. And if you hit the bell icon, you'll get notified as and when new content drops. As I said, this is mainly focused on film and television and related media. And of course, we talk about physical media as well, home media, 4K, Blu-ray, DVD, that sort of thing. We feature unboxings and reviews of media as well. So anything on here that takes your fancy, we would appreciate the support. If you are watching us live, which I can see a few people are, and you want to have your say, then please do get involved in the chat. I will make every effort to get to as many comments as possible. But if you just want to watch along, that's totally fine as well, because I'm not alone on this. I have guests with me on the panel tonight, and no doubt we will have oodles to talk about. If you're finding this after the case and you still want to make a comment, you can do that in the comment section below, and I'll make every effort to get back to you on that as well. But with all that sort of housekeeping out of the way and trying to sort of set the scene for today, it's time that I introduced my panel for this. So joining me, if you've watched any of this before, you know that we've covered every episode of Star Trek Picard season 3 in detail, where we've talked about Easter eggs, we've speculated how the show's going to end, we've talked about the production, all sorts of things. And my partner in crime from the other side of the Atlantic for that is filmmaker and Star Trek fan Pete Mealy.
Hello.
Hey, Pete. Always good to see you.
Thanks for having me. I'm just here on the bridge of my favorite ship. I hope she's going to, we're going to treat her well, and she will always bring us home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Joining us from the bridge of the Enterprise D. Oh, there's the first spoiler, but that's okay. We've got it out of the way. Also, this is not the only season 3 retrospective we've done. We did one a few weeks back on season 3 of The Mandalorian, which, we cover Star Wars as well. And in covering that week by week, I was joined by a writer and an artist and a big Star Wars and Star Trek fan. I'm not sure which one he prefers. I'm sure he'll tell us. But welcome, Lieutenant Commander G, aka Graham Williams. Hey, Graham.
Hello there.
You all right?
I'm all well. Very excited to be retroing again, this time in the Star Trek universe. And you asked the question, you posed the question there, Keith.
I
And I'll
did.
say to you, in my universe, there's enough room for it all. There's enough room for Star Trek. There's enough room for Star Wars. There's other universes out there, but let's not bring them into this just yet.
Not yet. I do love that answer though, because definitely when I was a kid at school, your level of coolness or probably non-coolness was whether you preferred Star Trek or Star Wars. And I always used to come back with the same, because I love both of them. I always used to say there was room for both, but not everybody in the schoolyard would have that. But there you go. Also returning from our retrospective discussion on Star Wars The Mandalorian, he is also a filmmaker with feature films available to see on Amazon Prime, so I'll give that a little plug as well. He was also the creator and my co-host of the podcast Movie Heaven, Movie Hell, which ran for 5 years and some 200 or so episodes. That's available on all podcast apps and on YouTube as well. So check that out. But in the meantime, welcome back, Simon Aitken.
Hello.
Hey, Simon. How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. You all set for this?
Yep, I'm all set.
Good. Right. There is a fourth guest, but before we went live today, there were some technical issues, so I don't know whether I'm gonna get him or not. I hope we haven't jinxed him, because he was a guest of ours on a number of the podcasts that Pete and I used to do on Star Trek prior to launching it on YouTube in full video format. But he appeared on a couple of episodes, and then he was also on a couple more episodes that got lost, Pete, didn't it? It got lost in a technical disaster. So
I'm still working on getting him back.
Okay, so he is a major Star Trek fan that I really wanted to get involved in this for a very particular reason, which we'll come to if he can join us. Let me try. His name is Eddie Wills. And we've got the spinning the spinning circle of no hope, I think. Eddie, there he is in his Star Trek Academy shirt. Can he hear us? Eddie? I'm sorry, Eddie. This doesn't seem to be working at your end. We just have you frozen on the screen, so I'm going to have to drop you out of this. If you want to comment, though, if you watch us on the YouTube channel, you can actually put comments in the live chat. So I hope that's good. And sorry once again, Eddie, technology has beaten us. Need to move on with the stream, though, don't we? Yep. I feel terrible. Anyway, so guys, here we are back. It has been, a couple of months since Picard finished airing, I think, something like that. A few weeks now, 6 weeks or whatever.
A few weeks,
I'll be honest, I haven't had the opportunity to go back and revisit it, just because there have been so many movies that have come out, new shows, physical media releases, all sorts of things. So I just haven't had the chance to catch up with it with so much on my list. But have any of you guys managed to go back and revisit it?
I have.
Oh.
And not just in preparation for this, but just a plug for you guys. When I watched Picard weekly, which we had the twists and the kind of join us next time type cliffhangers and anticipation. But after each one, I would listen to you, Keith, and you, Pete, with the let's see what's out there reviews, and I'd as ever, get all the predictions hideously wrong. But I was always crossing my fingers that you two would get them right as well. So I did that. So I had not just had Picard, but I also had Let's See What's Out There. And then I went back and I've binged watched them then. Completely different experience. You know what's happening and all the rest of it. But I'll be honest, I did actually miss having your retrospectives and your reviews whilst watching that. So I've managed to get through. Not that I'll remember everything, you know me and my goldfish memory, especially for detail. But no, I have done it. It was thoroughly enjoyable, but obviously we'll get into the deep dive of reviewing this season as we go on.
Well, what better review for the channel than that, Graham? Thank you. I hope other people out there think that, but I do appreciate it. What about, did any of you watch it, Simon? Have you gone back to it?
No, but I want to.
Okay, well, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
That's a positive sign straight away.
That's a positive sign, okay.
Unlike Graham, I didn't have much faith in it, so I waited for the whole series to be finished.
Right.
And I heard very good things about it, so I thought I'd give it a go. Because truth be told, New Trek, I've been burnt by it too many times. So I don't go out my way to watch it, but I heard a lot of good things about this series. And I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. And I was really surprised how good it was. I mean, it was Star Trek: The Next Generation. I would even go to say it was Star Trek: The Next Generation, The Undiscovered Country. It's a way to, well, that and Rafa Khan. First half, Rafa Khan. Second half, Undiscovered Country. But it is a way of sending them off, which was better than how the film sent them off. And that's it. And I hope to God that they leave Picard and the crew there and maybe carry on with Star Trek Legacy with these new characters. Because he actually did a very good job of building up these new characters without alienating the old characters. It was refreshing to see a series that had Star Trek on the title that was actually, from beginning to end, really good and built up a story and made you want to watch what was going to happen next.
There's at least one petition out there, which I've signed, by the way, that I hope does go to the those in senior positions, decision makers at Paramount, for there to be a legacy, a Star Trek legacy series. So if you can dig out the link to that, that petition may still be open. So as a fan, but not as what I felt as the biggest fan out there, but at least a fan. I thought, you know what? Yeah, I've come to the end of this one, and there is so much good that could easily come out. So I've put my name against that one.
Yeah, well, hold that thought. I think Eddie has changed device and is going to try and join us again. Let's all see if we can make it so, shall we? I'm going to engage the transporter and let's hope the signal's good enough and we don't have a Star Trek the Motion Picture situation. Anyway, let's try it.
Hello.
There he is.
Can you hear me?
Eddie, it's
for
almost like this was rehearsed. We beamed you into our live stream. How about that?
Yes. Well, I've been listening for a few minutes. The last thing I heard about the petition that was being talked about, I think it was something like over 60,000. But they'd only reached 30,000 when they greenlit Strange New Worlds. So it's twice the demand for Legacy is twice what it was for Strange New Worlds. So
there we go. Which actually sort of preempted one of my slides here about the future and will it continue in the 25th century with that crew. Cool. Well, listen, Eddie, I'm really glad you were able to beam in and join us. just ask you, because obviously the other guys, me and Pete talked about this weekly. Graham and Simon have just said a little bit on their thoughts. I just wondered, overall, before we sort of start digging into it, I already apologized. I don't know whether you know, but I know you were on a few of our podcasts a couple of years back. And when we did them, one of them, which I think got lost, was myself and Pete trying to sell you on the idea of giving, well, first Star Trek Enterprise a go.
Yeah.
And then we probably gave you bad advice, telling you to give because we hadn't watched it yet, telling you to give Discovery season 3 a go.
What, you didn't watch? You didn't watch it? I did watch Discovery season 3.
Okay, well, no, we did, but that was kind of what killed it for us. But obviously I've known you a long time, and I know that you're an old school fan of Star Trek.
Yes.
You know, the original series, the original movies, and the Next Generation were kind of the highlights for you, right?
Absolutely, yes. No, I've recently been able to, from a magazine article, I can say that the first episode of Star Trek that I remember was on the 4th of October, 1969.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It had been broadcast for a few weeks before that, but that was the Man Trap. That's the first episode I actually remember seeing for the first UK broadcast. So over 50 years of Star Trek. I
don't often get to say this, especially with guests, but that was actually before I was born even. So there you go.
It was almost before I was born too, but I absolutely. I liked all. I watched. I watched everything up until the end of Voyager. I was a bit disappointed by the end of Voyager, but I never really liked it when they tried to go back before the original series, because I just thought, the look of the show was wrong. Thanks to your input, I did watch Enterprise, and was pleasantly surprised. But I watched it in the order that Pete suggested. So I watched season 3 first.
3, yeah.
And then went back to the beginning and watched it forward. So that made it made sense. But very very underwhelmed by Discovery. I thought they were using a version of a ship design that was abandoned in the 1970s. So that was why it should now be good in the 2000s. I couldn't really see. I just think it just looked completely wrong. I mean, the rebooted movies, there was an explanation, and in fact, of course, that ties into the Picard timeline as well.
Yes.
And that's fine, because they had an explanation for why things look different. The era I think they should be operating in is the era that is the Picard era. It is the next generation, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I think Star Trek should always move forward and not try to look back. I have to say this because I haven't yet seen Strange New Worlds. I want to, and I will watch it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, you'll get a resounding shout out from me for Strange New Worlds. That has been a revelation. Last year, I managed to watch the original series back to back, first time ever to do that, and then to go into Strange New Worlds from that. Even though it's behind, so it's historic to original series. It's been nothing but a pleasure. So I hope you have the same, if not more.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it. So I'm very well to give it a try. And I have to say that I even quite enjoy. My guilty pleasure is Lower Decks.
Oh my God! Okay.
I remember when it first came out, we really slagged it off. I mean, we were talking about this thing about how it was a program that people were watching. It was a comedy series that was contemporary with the Star Trek universe. But now I see it's going to be made entirely canon in season 2 of Strange New Worlds. So that'll be interesting to see.
It is, yeah, no, absolutely. By the way, sorry, we've lost Simon there, so hopefully he'll be able to join us back in a second. It's saying that his device is not connected, according to this. So,
it wasn't because of Lower Decks then.
It might have been. Yeah, he's gone to the Lower Decks. No, that's cool. I agree. I mean, one of the things that you said there, Eddie, which is quite interesting about how you think Star Trek should always be moving forward. That was kind of a Gene Roddenberry thing as well, right? He always wanted it to move forward, hence the next generation, etc. Right? But then they decided to do prequels and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a comment actually about that. So Jaden Smith I says, I appreciate the sentiment that Star Trek should always be looking forward. Recent cinema stroke TV has been far too indulgent on the past. And I can't say I disagree with you at all there, Jaden. So thank you for that comment.
Yeah.
But there have been some diamonds in the rough, though. I can hail on to Strange New Worlds, but even over on the other side with Star Wars, we've had Andor, which is a prequel to a prequel. So yes, indulgent. Yes, why are you mining there? But actually, sometimes you mine and you do find those nuggets, don't you?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've had to suffer through a lot of same old, and people not trying to challenge us, but give us the same material over again, but with maybe bigger hair, different fashions, flares and larger collars, because obviously in the past everyone lived in the 70s rather than the modern times. But no, we do find the nuggets though still.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I don't know whether if Simon's watching this, I don't know whether you can rejoin us, Simon. It'll be great if you can. But at the moment, it's still not available on here. So, no, cool. All right. Well, one of the reasons that I wanted to get you on in particular, Eddie, as a guest on this, obviously myself and Pete had covered this quite extensively over the course of our episodes, but it's based on something you said to me many years ago when Star Trek First Contact came out. Well, it was Star Trek Generations, but then it was a reaction to Star Trek First Contact. And just as a preempt, I see that you in the background there have the wall picture of the Enterprise D. I just remember having a chat with you years back when the movies, because we knew each other through the Star Trek movies, and I remember having a chat with you at the time, and you said something that really resounded with me, and you sort of said, look, as much as you enjoyed First Contact and you thought the film was great, and it was an improvement on Generations and all of this sort of thing, you said your only disappointment was that they had an Enterprise E, because you considered the Galaxy class Enterprise D as being, one of the characters, like, the 10th character or whatever in it. And that always resonated with me. And I just wondered, because there were many things Pete and I speculated over the weeks. And one thing that I certainly didn't think we'd see is I thought they'd be on an Enterprise, but I was saying, it'll be the Enterprise A, or it'll be, an Enterprise F, or whatever. Yeah, but I did not expect Geordi to have, salvaged and rebuilt and recommissioned the Enterprise D. So I just wondered, from your point of view, and I want to ask the other two well, but start with you. From your point of view, you know, what did that mean to you when you watched that episode and it dropped?
It was fantastic. Absolutely, I love the Enterprise D. I know that from a filmic point of view, apparently there were also, you know, for filming it was a difficult miniature to film, and obviously this version of it was computer generated in Picard. But no, I just I love the whole concept and the idea of it and the shape, the organic shape, but also that it sort of incorporated parts of a ship. I mean, it's sort of got a almost like a prow here on the neck, that they've made that much stronger, because I mean it has to be said it's a weak point, and they've almost gone back to it with the Enterprise G, as it now is, the Titan A. The neck is quite a weak point in terms of design of the ship, but on the Enterprise D, it's good, and because I spend a lot of time looking on geeky Starship websites, and my office calendar is called Ships of the Line. I've been having that for over 20 years now, and it's just Starship porn. So I spend a lot of time thinking about these things, but I just think it's a fantastic design. It's a vast ship. There's a wonderful photograph that I've seen of, it's a graphic where they show how much the crew of the Enterprise D is supposed to be 1,012 people, and it shows how much space that actually takes up in the Enterprise D, and it's tiny. It's ridiculously small. So you think, you know, when they come to evacuate planets, they would have, you know, have plenty of opportunity to take entire civilizations on board if they needed to. There's a lot of space.
I know Pete will have something to say here. I know Pete is something with the Discovery era that used to drive us both nuts, right? Was the sort of inner geography of the starship.
Ridiculous. It was stupid. Why would you have that sort of big disc in the middle? It's probably to do with the fact that it's driven by mushrooms or whatever. Right? It's a really it's a bad design. I mean, they took a bad. I mean, I love Ralph McQuarrie's artwork. You know, obviously the stuff that he did on Star Wars is fantastic and seminal. But no, he couldn't design an Enterprise.
Actually, wasn't that old designer Ken Adam design?
I don't know. I thought it was Ralph McQuarrie, but I might be wrong.
So might I.
I'm sure I've seen a drawing that he's done of that Enterprise.
Right. Okay. No, that's cool. Pete, you're being very quiet. What about you? I want you to chime in on this with regards to the Enterprise return.
You know, I obviously one of my favorite ships, right? And I hope I'm not being too mean too early here, but it was nice to get on a ship that had lighting in it. In Picard. And so I appreciated that. Maybe I'm getting too old. But yeah, I don't know. It seemed like just the right sort of tone to set. And it was, I think, different than something that Star Trek has been doing recently, in that they went back to something popular, but they didn't try to zhuzh it up, you know. They didn't try to change it. They didn't give us, you know, the next iteration of the Enterprise. They just gave us what we were used to, and it was fun. Yeah.
No, that's cool. By the way, Eddie, you are exactly right. I just Googled that, and presuming that Google is right, of course, but it does say that Ralph McQuarrie designed that concept. So, as always, Eddie, you are the Star Trek expert. So,
well done, Eddie.
It's not just Google.
I bow to your knowledge.
But just to say, there's Pinterest and Twitter as well, and obviously they are the bastions of truth and fact as well. So I too have seen images of Ralph McQuarrie's ships there as well. So you've heard it on the internet. It is true.
It must be true. Absolutely.
Must be.
I have to say, I'm going to just put this out there as well. I don't know about you guys. Just my love for All Good Things, which was the last episode of Next Generation. I almost wanted to see this Enterprise have the third nacelle and the big cannon that we saw in the because obviously it's around the same time period, although a different timeline. And I did sort of think, that would have been a nice sort of deep cut reference to All Good Things, but I agree. It made more sense to keep it as it was, and they also had a TV version of the bridge as well. And
I was going to say that.
Redesign.
Yeah, a lot of people. I saw a lot of comment about that. I think it was right to. I mean, it was a TV show, so or Picard was a TV program, and so it sort of made sense to have that most familiar version of the bridge. I mean, one of the things that always amused me in Generations is that they had chairs for the rear consoles, I think, but actually there were always chairs there. They just slide in and out under the consoles.
Right.
But they sort of ignored that in Generations and put extra chairs in.
Yeah, I know. One of the reasons for the redesign with Generations was that obviously they had to have more detail because it was obviously for the big screen, but also they needed to go to the 2:35:1 aspect ratio, so they needed everything to be wider. Yeah. And they thought they could justify it not looking as weird if they added a couple of consoles, so it just looked like an upgrade, if you like. So yeah. Oh, Simon is back. Brilliant. Hold on. Let me add him. Hey, Simon.
Hello.
Everything okay?
No. What can I say? Technical difficulties.
Oh, dear. We all have them. So, it's all right, Simon. All you missed, we were just talking about the return of the Enterprise D. And that being something that we weren't expecting. And just sort of how we felt about that. Anything you want to add to that from your point of view?
Well, the decision to destroy it in Generations always felt like a kind of cynical one from the studios, where it's we got these new movies now, so we want to get a new ship, and they did this with the Enterprise A. So, the Enterprise and the Enterprise A in Search for Spock. So, we might as well carry that on. And, Hollywood's always known for destroying things so they can, get something else new. Builds up those toy sales.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. More merchandise, definitely.
Yeah.
But also, I have to say, in terms of writing it into this, I thought that the fact they removed it because of the Prime Directive made total sense.
Absolutely.
Don't leave your garbage on a planet, even though it has just destroyed a forest.
That's all right.
They would have planted trees. You know that. They would have gone back.
Yes,
and
it's all right.
Trees.
Well, rewilding would have taken place. It would have come back. It would be fine.
Yeah.
Have you seen there's that little short film?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's uncanny, isn't it?
That's extraordinary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, quite unsettling.
Yes.
If
that's why they're coming up with all these laws for AI.
Yeah.
If nobody knows what we're talking about, there is I can't remember what it's actually called. Do you remember what it's called, guys?
It's a string of numbers. I think it's might be put out by Roddenberry.com.
Right.
I know it's the Roddenberry Archives. I'm not quite sure quite what it is, but it looks like it's going to be an interactive experience. Okay. But they've had because Gene Roddenberry estate personally owns the rights to the Cage. Is it Star Trek the Motion Picture?
Yes.
And the animated series. So they're looking at taking all those elements and putting them into an interactive. So there's been like screenshots of the alien from the animated series, one of the actors from the Cage. Yeah, it's really amazing. To tell the truth,
I think somebody told me that the string of numbers is the serial number for that character from the motion picture. I can't remember her name. It's the ensign in the Cage who gets beamed down with Pike into the Telosian's enclosure.
Yeah, I have to admit, I've seen some of the stuff on YouTube, and it is incredible. And the little short film they've made where they show, Viridian 3 or whatever it is, and the Enterprise dish being moved, and also Spock visiting Kirk's grave.
Yeah,
and of course that makes sense as to why Kirk is on the on the space station in this show, right?
Yes.
The remains of Kirk. But yeah.
Well, that is a question of whether or not they had any input between the two, because it's kind of strange, because it could have been just a coincidence that they were doing all this stuff.
True.
I don't know. It's just because how New Trek kind of disregards Gene Roddenberry. I don't know if they openly say that, but from their actions, you can tell that they're going their own way with it.
Yeah.
But I think the people behind Terry Matalas seems to be a bit more on board, shall we say?
Yes,
I agree.
Yeah, I think one of their one mantra they had was "made for fans by fans" for Picard season 3. So Terry Matalas definitely there, and that's shown, and it's also been shown in the love that there is, especially in social media for Picard anyway, and being respectful to the past, which is part of Simon's argument there, isn't it? Not being respectful to Gene Roddenberry, but actually Terry Matalas has come in and said, right, here is Next Generation. I'm not just going to dump things. I'm going to do that. And also some of the Easter eggs that I do remember listening back on some of Keith's, so some of your theories, at least more than Pete's in your reviews each week on what you were seeing. But in the end, they were Easter eggs. But again, they were respectful. They were picking and choosing those there. So
Well, I must admit, I never thought that they could have had an ending to a series better than All Good Things that I keep going on about at the end of season 7. And then obviously we got the movies, which was great, especially First Contact was excellent. But then, the way they kind of left things at the end of Nemesis was always I always found a little disappointing. And it's almost like they've done it. They've
made up for it.
They brought those first 2 seasons of Picard back, and it wasn't really kind of gelling and feeling quite right. And that they gave them all this great send off at last with this. My only thing is, and I really feel strongly about this, and I think I said it, Pete, when we reviewed the last episode, was the fact that it's such a shame that both the Borg and Q couldn't have been saved for this, because the impact that both of those things would have had in this show would have been amazing if we hadn't have had them in season 1 and 2 of Picard, unfortunately. But,
one of the things that I found really was the part where in season 3 where somebody says, well, nobody's heard about the Borg for a decade. And I was thinking, what? What about the last 2 seasons?
Yeah, they tried to ignore it,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, there was a bit, having known kind of what had happened in the first two series of Picard, there was, there was stuff that they had brought over from that. But yeah, it was things like, oh yeah, we've not heard from the Borg for so long. And you went, no.
We have.
We-
Hey?
yeah, Picard has.
Did he forget?
But that's your advice now to anybody new coming in. Say, hey, should I watch Picard? And you'll just say exactly as you did for Enterprise. Yeah, start with season 3.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go
No.
back.
No. Just
No.
go season 3, forget the other two.
Yeah.
Forget
Well,
the two.
you would need an explanation as to who Raffi was and why Picard
I don't think you do.
I don't.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think Raffi introduction season 3 is you get everything you need.
Yeah. You probably.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
enough,
Raffi was
you?
one of those characters who I despised from the first series, and was one of the reasons why I wouldn't watch the second series. And she was actually used really well in it.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Well, I have to say, from my point of view, this whole live stream wouldn't have even existed if it hadn't have been for Picard season 1 coming back. So
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
like
yeah.
the birth.
I mean, one of my friends said that they watched seasons 1 and 2 out of loyalty, but I mean that's by the time you get to season 3, it's just it's everything that we wanted.
It's interesting that Picard followed the sort of trope of other Star Treks, and that the first 2 seasons are rough, but then by season 3 they pull it together, right?
There you go.
Oh my
I think,
gosh. What happened to Strange New Worlds then? A Strange New World season 1 was awesome.
Well,
are we expecting some of this, and then season 3 is going to blow our minds?
I don't know. I mean, we could go back and look at Discovery, which I think had season 1. To be clear, I have not finished seasons 4 or 5. Is 5 out? I don't know.
No.
Yeah, 5's going to be the last
I think it's
one.
coming, and it's going to be the last one.
Yeah. So
not
season
not
1
a
of
season
Discovery.
too soon.
Season 1 of Discovery, I think, all in all, was pretty good. But then it went downhill from there. So there is some sort of, precedence there that maybe Strange New Worlds is going in that route, where it starts strong, but then has issues. But I did like that. Next Generation really doesn't pick up until season 3.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe, you know what? Yeah, just putting it together. So TOS was, season 1 probably better than seasons 2 and 3. I guess season 2, whatever. But yeah, you've got the TOS model, which Discovery fell into, and then you've got the Next Generation model that definitely Enterprise and I don't know about Voyager,
Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space
Nine's in that.
Yeah,
3. It gets better after the first 2 seasons. They were hampered by a couple of early decisions that were wrong.
It was like most of them is they're not quite sure where it's going, or people still getting the feel of the characters. So after the first 2 seasons, especially the actors, they are more sort of comfortable with their roles and what they're going to do and stuff like that. I think that the writers then kind of, come up with better stories or the better fix.
What about beards? Was it season 3 that Riker got his beard? Was it season 3 that Sisko got his beard?
Season 2.
Okay, forget that theory. We'll scrap that one.
Although I'm loving that you're trying to make it about beards, Graham.
I just thought of Sisko, because Benjamin Sisko
Cisco's
had no
beard.
beard.
Yeah,
then he just turned his head upside down.
Right. Grab your drinks, because I'm going to ask you a question. So let's get some tea Earl Grey hot. Alrighty, so I want to ask you guys then, we've been gushing about this and how we enjoyed season 3, but I want to know if any of you had any nitpicks about season 3, what didn't work, what you weren't so happy with, what you would have liked to have seen. So who wants to kick that off?
Oh, I'll start. I got lots of nitpicks. Uh-oh.
We lost Simon again.
So I have lots of nitpicks with season 3. I appreciate the attempt at having Locutus be the broadcaster and Jack be the receiver. Nope. Is that right? Reverse it. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
No, that's right. That's what it is. Locutus is the broadcaster, right? He speaks, Jack can receive. But then what do? They make Jack broadcast. And so I was like, come on now, right? Like, I didn't love it. And then, oh no, wait, I was wrong. Anyway, they make Jack do both things, both receive and transmit. And I was like, that doesn't quite make a lot of sense. It is like a small nitpick. I feel like they shoehorned it in there. The bigger thing for me is that they did just drop the Dominion side of things,
that was weird.
right? And I would have loved more of that and going back to the Gamma Quadrant, right? And maybe getting more of the Great Link, because we didn't get any of it, right? Honestly, like by the end of it, I wasn't 100% sure they were changelings. I would have loved to have seen a more cohesive storyline there. I think they also could have, done away with the Borg thing, right? Like, I don't know that we needed the Borg storyline here, and like it didn't wrap anything up for me. If they had just stuck with the changelings, I think that would have been way better.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to keep spouting my nerd anger here, but I really wish they could have lit any of the starships apart from the Enterprise. Right? Like, it was so frustrating to me that every ship was so dark. Yeah.
Right, cool. Hold that thought, because I want to hear people's comments, but I'm going to try and beam Simon back. It worked with Eddie, so let's see. Let's say, make it so. On 3, 1, 2, 3.
Make it so.
Make it so.
And
there we go.
Having way too much fun tonight. But there you go.
Oh dear.
Welcome back, Simon.
Technology letting me down.
Right. So, Pete, have you got enough of that off your chest, or is there
I think I have
another thing?
I could probably go deeper if I wanted to, but I think that's enough for now. Yeah.
Right. Well, I want to give the others the opportunity to comment on all of that. So, anybody want to start?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you hear it?
Yeah. I was going to say, when I heard the Borg was involved again, I thought, oh, for fuck's sake, can we maybe not have a story that doesn't involve the Borg? I mean, I understand they are the great enemy in the Next Generation, but it does. You think there are other things out there, and the whole with the changelings and the Dominion and stuff. I thought, well, that's a good angle. But at the end of the day, I was quite happy with how they used the Borg. It's a way of sending the Borg off as well. I felt that they kind of went, the Borg are dying. They're, the Queen is actually having to, strip away at everything that's around her just to survive. And this is their final, last best hope to sort of, propagate their species before they die. And I just hope that, like the Next Generation crew, that's it for the Borg.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have some new stuff,
Yeah. They were told to Borg off basically.
I mean, I think
Eddie, I'm sure you've got different feelings about that, right?
well, I think the Borg have always been a law of diminishing returns. I think they were the episode they were introduced was amazing. I think that was a season 2 episode. Although you could say the final episode of season 1 was where they had the Romulan, the planets along the neutral zone where the cities had been scooped out. Why did the Borg never do that ever again? Anyway, but it was the Borg, and so that they're shown to do that in the beginning of Best of Both Worlds. But I don't think after the Best of Both Worlds Part 1, I don't think the Borg were ever quite as menacing again. They never quite lived up to that again. They came close, but I think those first 2 episodes were the strongest. But I thought that the use of the changelings was very interesting, but couldn't help wondering that there were a whole lot more perhaps in Starfleet. It would have been interesting to see where they got to. Perhaps a few more of those. Because they were
jump in on here because Pete mentioned something about the changelings and the Dominion earlier, but in my head canon is that I was okay with that they were being controlled by the Borg, and they did that because the fact that they were alive in the first place, it's considering the virus that was planted into the Great Link, meant that these guys, similar to what Simon just said with the Borg, were the last remnants of an entire species, and they had to evolve in some way. So I thought there would actually be far less of them. I know there's mention of the Great Link, but I think these, in my head canon at least, these were the last of the Dominion, and they were fighting for their survival, but couldn't quite make it, and they had to make literally a deal with the devil, and the devil was the Borg Queen. But then to have them effectively or close to wiped out, because you see right at the end in episode or part 10 of the series where in that narrative to close off Picard season 3, that technology was there to find or identify the changelings. You'd think that now the Federation would actually be humane at least and lock them up rather than kill them off or whatever.
Well,
I think with that they weren't closed, they weren't killed off effectively, and I genuinely appreciate that. Plus the fact that the reveal of the Borg was there, and then we had to go to the Borg because for me it was the natural swing from the servants, the changelings, to the masters, the Borg. So I saw that as seamless personally.
Okay, we got a couple of comments. So Scotty R337, I don't know if that's Montgomery Scott from another universe, but he has said, I was so disappointed when the changelings were backseated in Picard season 3, and goes on to say, I can't wrap my head around an alliance between the changelings and the Borg. At staff meetings seemed unlikely.
But I think then, my point answers that, is that the changelings were desperate, and the Borg Queen, in her, twiddling mustache, evil monologue, here's my plan all spelled out for you in episode 9 or 10, whatever, whichever, I think it was episode part 10, says that, that she could use them, and they were used, and to propagate. That's what she had to do. The Borg always assimilated, but now they had to go to somebody. So the changes happened. It could have been any. It could have been any other kind of evil or Federation hating species, and changelings happened to be there. Also, it was one of the coolest ways to do it, because you couldn't really have had, I don't know, Jemadar or Romulan. Well, you had Romulan in season 1, didn't you?
Yeah.
Who had sneaked into the Federation and pretended to be Vulcan or whatever, because they looked the same, big ears and all that. But yeah, the Changeling could do that. So again, I saw that as a servant master, and you even saw with, what's her name? Amanda Plummer's character.
Yeah, Vadik.
Thank you, Vadik.
Vadik, yeah.
She was supremely evil, but then you get to see her as Vader had been. Darth Vader in Star Wars,
Yeah.
sorry, in original Star Wars, was the evil one, but you see he has a master in Empire. This time you have that evil master in the Borg. So again, my headcanon and my appreciation really had that as fine. It really had that they were all desperate, and desperate measures literally meant a desperate pact, which worked for a while.
I'm a little bemused because it's a while since I saw the last episode of Deep Space Nine, but I seem to remember that while the Dominion had been vanquished, I think the disease was largely at an end. They got an antidote.
cure, yeah.
They got a cure, and Odo went back to the Great Link, and so I thought that they probably, they might have gone into seclusion, or I can't remember what was
Okay,
happening.
I can see what the confusion is. So, in Picard season 3, the changelings we see, they are, as you can say, the last remnants of the Dominion. They were captured changelings that they were the Starfleet were experimenting on to.
Yeah.
I think it may have been the source of where they created the disease that affected the Great Link, but they also, because they went through all this sort of torture and stuff, they evolved so that they could take on their captors. So they were like this, I guess, if the Dominion was this great country at war with Starfleet, then the ones we saw in Picard season 3 were like the terrorists. They're like the IRA or something like that.
Yeah. So they're not part of the.
No.
They're almost perhaps excluded from the Great Link because of their
extremism. Yeah.
Well, maybe extremism or the fact that they've been damaged. Mentally and physically, that
they were so blinded by hate that they didn't want to return to the Great Link. That's another one. I mean, there Worf mentions that an honourable man was tipped him off to what was happening, aka Odo. Why they couldn't say Odo, but
and of course
Worf,
there's the shame. I mean, perhaps that would have been nice. That would have been a sort of little tip of the hat to René Aubergine.
Actually, there's a couple of comments here about that. So again, Scotty R37 has said, in my understanding, species 8472, which were from Voyager, were unassimilatable. Wow, that's a word, and a threat. I would have figured the founders to be similar, and goes on to say that was a thing too. Odo educated the Great Link as to how the solids were cool. And was Vadik a post-war kidnapping?
Well, that was the only thing. They didn't quite mention when those experimentations took place.
Yeah.
So it could have been during the war. It could have been after the war.
Yeah.
I mean,
I assume
it's some of the I mean, it's some of the things I'm not happy with Picard is the whole dark Star Trek stuff. So, I get the feeling that it was post-war, and it was that they wanted spies. They wanted, these changelings to infiltrate other planets and other civilizations so they could spy for them, and if they became a threat, to be able to attack them from within. And it goes down to that whole Dark Trek stuff that I've really not enjoyed in
Yeah.
Picard.
Yeah, the
I mean,
section
the whole
31
stuff with Series 1 with the Borg and their parts being harvested and all that stuff, and 7 or 9 just killing people, you know, just disintegrating them and stuff like that. I mean, like that whole episode, I was really disgusted, left a bad taste in my mouth. And that's why when they did the Dark Universe version of Picard season 2, I was like, not interested. That was a real turn off for me.
Yeah,
And so there's still touches of that in this. Not as bad as like season 1, but it's still kind of there, you know, like the swearing, you know. I think, you know, in the future, and they're a bit beyond swearing.
Although
lovely
Vadic's
thought.
swear when she's about to die fitted nicely. And to be honest with you, if I was in that situation and I'd been really smashing it, I had a super cool Uber spaceship, and next thing I've been bested, I think I'm just going to give off a little swear.
Yeah, but I mean, that was the thing about Star Trek, is it's beyond that. I mean, they've gone beyond, you know,
I mean,
all these sort of, you know, swear words.
Simon's got a good point. One of the things that you may have discussed before, but the phaser design. What happened? Why have they got massive, great phasers? You know, the phasers were all sort of, you know, look like, I don't know, well, like dustbusters or something like that. And then they've turned out these massive, great things, which, you know.
I knew you'd have a problem with that, Eddie. I kept getting bothered by the fact that Jack Crusher had an original series phaser, and I was like, why has he got that? And the others.
If you looked at it in detail, have you seen pictures of it close up?
No.
I know. Okay, so I accept that I'm probably the only sane person to have done that. But actually, it's made up out of lots of different bits of different old series phasers. So it's got bits from the Star Trek 3 phaser, bits from the Star Trek 6 phasers and things like that. So they're
phaser.
It's an amalgam.
Yeah. Scotty Arthur at 37 says Starfleet phasers in Picard 3 look like the next generation Romulan disruptors.
They've got similarities there, definitely.
Yeah.
But they're even bigger than the Romulan disruptors.
Yeah. So my nitpicks with Picard, and it's literally down to writing, believe it or not. But it's the pacing.
There you go.
No, I can forgive a lot for this one. It really entertained me and really brought, I know, a lot of people, friends included, back to Star Trek. But it was the pacing of some of the episodes, and it's the really stretching out. You know, we know Vadic is evil and she's doing really well, but sometimes it was just stretched a bit. You know, where there's enough excitement. Why are you? Without any common sense, or at least, you know, the sense of danger was already there. Stop the episode now for a cliffhanger. Don't stretch it out where somebody, you know, some of the heroes may just get away, as it were. So some of the wasn't quite an action sequence, it was more of a thrilling sequence. They stretched out a bit too far, which I thought, were they really pushing to each episode to almost an exact time for broadcast, which is odd for streaming, right? You don't have the ads or anything like that. So that bugged me a few times. I thought, actually, you're doing so well with holding my attention. Why are you now doing this? And I was starting to lose that a bit. But genuinely, that's the biggest one. I could forgive so much more of potential plot holes or some character flaws as well. Because I was enjoying the ride. But when you get on the ride, let's say you're on a roller coaster and you're up and down, but then you have to pause a bit, or maybe you're being pulled up this way for a bit too long. You get bored before the jump down. So before the descent again, I felt that way sometimes. The design of the roller coaster just stretched out those boring bits just a little bit too long for me.
If they had Discovery, there's roller coasters actually inside Discovery, isn't there?
I haven't seen that.
Scotty R37. No, I was being facetious about the design. Sorry. Scotty R37 has said, I was disappointed with the jukebox Trek themes used willy-nilly. I was aware that I was manipulated by the music. Yes, they did put a lot of hits in there. By the way, thank you for your interaction this evening, Scotty R37. It is appreciated. But yeah, any thoughts on that, on the musical side?
I mean, I suppose from the point of view that they were using the sort of First Contact theme, was perhaps an audio clue that we were going to get the Borg. We were sort of thinking, maybe are we going to get that?
I must admit, I enjoyed the music. It was good to hear it again, all the different themes.
Agreed, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I know the whole series has kind of been like, member berries or fan service or whatever people want to put on it, but I thought it was done really well. It was done in service of a story, and it wasn't just there for the sake of it. It wasn't like, oh, look at this because our story's shit, but look at this. You remember story's shit, but look at this. You remember that.
I haven't yet. I usually do this when I like a soundtrack is find it somewhere online, Spotify, YouTube, or whatever, and listen through that. That's one of these that I not yet done. So I think that's going to be a pleasure just to be able to go through there and pick up on the cues. But not talking about Q here. I don't think he ever.
Can I also say that James Horner and Jerry Goldsmith are two really hard acts to follow. You would have had to get somebody really amazing to come up with new themes that would be at the same level as those two composers. So I can understand why they've gone back to, that music. And it worked. I mean, it did work in those scenes. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Eddie, what was that?
I said I just have to give a little shout out to Alexander Courage with the original theme.
Yes.
Which,
And by the way, for those of you that haven't checked out Strange New Worlds yet, the opening credits and the theme music that Jeff Russo has written for that, I would say, for me, the best since Voyager by Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah.
But, I know Pete likes the rock song from the rock Enterprise.
Not the song from the Enterprise, the double header. Was it In a Mirror Darkly?
No, I like the original better.
Okay, fine. No, but even with Strange New Worlds, they've got a theremin at the end as well, which I love. I absolutely love.
Excellent. Yeah,
love a theremin.
That's a beautiful Alexander Courage nod there. Spoiler.
My friend, my Star Trek friend, got married a couple of weeks ago, and I got to say I got to say that it'd been a long road getting from there to here, but I had faith of the heart that they would do it, and so it's literally more people laughing in this Zoom call than laughed when I said it, and I had to say, like, that was a Star Trek joke, and I'm disappointed.
You tried, Pete.
Yeah.
Scotty has also said Heaven's got to have to listen to the Strange New Worlds theme, and has also put Faith of the Heart is great. So
It is.
there you go. You're not alone, Pete.
And I know this is we're talking about Picard, but wasn't Faith of the Heart written for something completely different?
Patch Adams.
Yeah.
Sorry?
The film Patch Adams was what it
Right,
was
that's it,
originally
yes.
written for by who was the writer? Diane Warren.
Diane Warwick. Yeah.
But yeah, but hey, a good use of it in Star Trek Enterprise. So.
Absolutely.
Although I didn't like it in season 3 when they sped the tempo of it up.
Yeah, it didn't
That
work.
didn't work.
In terms of nitpicks, my wife Julie would not forgive me if I didn't mention the relationship between Picard and Beverly Crusher.
Right.
Why
is she not on this, by the way, Eddie?
Well, I'm afraid she's at work, so otherwise
could have done with a female perspective.
Well, absolutely.
So fire away.
But I mean, she considering that that they'd had a child together, there's no real point where they sort of come together and really talk to each other. I mean, admittedly, it's 20 plus years since they've seen each other and all the rest of it, but there's a bit more of a interaction between Kirk and Carol Marcus than there was between Picard and Beverly. And considering how close they were throughout the original series, it's not picked up much in the films. There's a couple of bits in Nemesis, but just it didn't seem quite right how they interacted together. There was no scene where they sort of had they talked about Jack, but they didn't actually talk about each other. Well,
while we're on nitpicks, actually, that does kind of lead. I was always slightly confused as to exactly when in the timeline Jack Crusher was conceived, simply because Ed Spielers is in his mid-30s, right? He's a good actor and all this, but he would be 21 years old maximum, right?
He's had a hard life.
So I was always a bit confused about when he was supposed to, because they do mention a time, and I'm like, so was that before Nemesis or post Nemesis? I mean, she left at the end of Nemesis to go to Starfleet Medical, right?
Yeah.
In the deleted scenes, anyway, or whatever. I don't know if they're canon.
Well, I kind of think it happened something. I mean, they may have sort of slipped out the back of Riker and Troy's wedding.
What do you mean Wesley was there?
Oh dear.
But I think it must have been somewhere around that time, and I think so. Theoretically, so this was playing somebody younger.
Yeah, which actors can do. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Not everybody, can look as old. So look at this here for a 30-something-year-old, for instance.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm only 26.
Eddie, I'm afraid you already gave the game of that one away by telling us what year you first watched Star Trek.
Can I comment that I keep seeing I don't actually watch these after shows with Will Wheaton, but he must be really fucking kicking himself that he was not included in this series at all. I know he made like an appearance in season 2, but it's like they have replaced him now with Jack Crusher.
Well, actually, I thought there was a point at one stage in the series where we thought actually perhaps the special person is actually Beverly Crusher, because she's had 2 unusual children. In that she had Wesley, who went off and has become a traveller, and now Jack. And so maybe it was something about her and not about Picard at all.
Oh, it wasn't that episode in Next Generation where she had to make love to, she didn't have to, but she did make love to a ghost.
Well, there is.
She'd already had Wesley by then, so that doesn't count. I'm full of crap theories tonight. Hey, but yeah, you have a good point there. Yeah, so she is a special, maybe an entity, not a human.
Yes,
it's about time. Beverly got something, special to have. I mean, I will say that I don't know whether you've got thoughts on this, but how do each of you feel about the way that the those legacy characters, how they were treated and used in this storyline? I think that'll be an interesting discussion. So, anybody want to kick that off?
Worf was the best. I thought he kicked ass. I thought they gave him a lot of comedy, which was a lot of it is accidental before, but I thought Michael Dorn really played comedy brilliantly well. He was my favourite, and he overshadowed much of anybody else. I'll kick it off with that.
Yeah, no, he was amazing. Absolutely splendid. Great eyebrows.
Well, he says it was a great reunion. So yes, put in his.
I think all the characters, on the whole, were well portrayed. They felt like their original series characters, in a way that I never felt Kirk did in Generations. I didn't think he was well written in Generations.
No.
Okay.
No. Generations is a film that shouldn't have happened, to tell the truth. Well, just from the point of view that we had the send off for the original crew in Undiscovered Country, and that's where it should have been left. They should never have brought Kirk back.
100% agree.
Yeah,
but without Generations, we wouldn't have the Shatnerverse. If anybody knows about that,
well, absolutely. Well, when you were saying about the fact that his body was on the on that starbase, I was thinking, but is it?
What wasn't he turned into a robot as well? Did Picard just nick that?
I think the Borg were involved, and Vija was involved.
Yes, he was reanimated in some way. Yeah,
the Mirror Universe. Also, I mean, to be fair, they are a wild ride. I think there's like 6 novels or something, and they are kind of.
Aren't they all written by William Shatner?
Well, allegedly written by William Shatner. Yeah.
Oh,
Two of the writers of Enterprise.
Judith and Reese Stevens, is it?
That's it. Yeah, Judith and I forget. Yeah.
Reese Stevens. No, that's not right. I can't remember.
No, you are right.
Garfield,
you are right.
Reese Stevens. Oh, I can't remember.
There we go. Scott, is it the best Shatner? The Shatnerverse is the best fan fiction I've ever read.
Some excellent fan of that.
Judith and Garfield.
That's it.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's another plug here as well. I've read some of the Strange New Worlds, which is collections of short stories by fans. And I have one on my Kindle. I think it's like 16 or 17. And there's a Christmas Carol mixed with Q, which is one of the best stories I've read of Christmas Carol, but Q as well, and some great stories in there. So it's not canon. But if I'm pushed into reading the Shatnerverse, then maybe then I'll have a comparison there. But no, check out. There's a lot of great short story fan fiction out there. It's not just fan service. It's actually very well written. And they've usually got a twist in them, but they fit neatly in.
Sometimes they fix things as well, things that don't quite make sense. They'll try and fix, which is always interesting. To be fair to Picard, it's tried to do that with a few things. Like in season 2, they kind of tried to deal with the date of the eugenics wars, and season 1 they explain why the Romulans look different in Next Gen to the original series, and all of that stuff. I like that.
It's a better explanation than the Klingon forehead.
Don't say it.
Oh.
No, I loved Enterprise's thing. It's just then Discovery's like, what?
Yeah.
Enterprise nailed it on with the Klingons. Brilliant. But then Disco came along.
Okay.
I think we can all accept that from the original series to the movies, that the Klingon change was fine, and we didn't need an explanation to connect the two or anything like that. I mean, it just ruins a great joke that with Worf in Deep Space Nine when they go back in time.
Yeah,
and it's just like, they're Klingons? What happened? Oh, we don't talk about it. That's fine. That dealt with it. We didn't.
Oh, I disagree. I disagree.
I love the Enterprise story arc.
Well, does that mean now we're going to have another explanation of why they changed yet again?
Well, yeah.
For Discovery season 1?
No, because you can just package up Discovery and.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, because it was genetic engineering, and what Picard season 2 has told us is that genetics are complex, and you can't affect an entire race. It just so happens that we were only seeing Southern Klingons in the original series or whatever, and in Discovery we're seeing Klingons, from the Klingon equivalent of Hawaii or whatever, right? The Galapagos. Somewhat remote
is the where the original series Klingons appear in Deep Space Nine with foreheads.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but they had plastic surgery. They had the thing that the guy said. The Klingon. He said he was going to move into a field of doing plastic surgery or whatever. Yeah. So they had that. Oh, hold on a second. What's this? The only thing that makes the smoothing of the Klingon forehead cool is that John Schruck is the geneticist. Yeah, that's the character I was just trying to think of. He's played by John Schruck, who also played a Klingon in Star Trek 4, right? The Voyage Home. Wasn't he? Wasn't he the Klingon ambassador?
Yes.
It wants justice. Yes. I want justice. For Kirk or whatever. Yeah. There will be no justice if Kirk lives. So there you go. You can tell what I grew up on, can't you? or didn't grow up on, is the case, maybe.
I think we should. Was that the one we? No, it was the Undiscovered Country we went to the premiere of, wasn't it?
We did. We did. Oh, and confirming that character was also in that as well. So, but yes, we did go to the premiere of Undiscovered Country. I remember that. Yes. Yeah. Wow.
While I remember it, because I know we did nitpicks a while ago, but one of the things I really enjoyed and was also a nitpick at the same time was Captain Shaw's Indianapolis speech when he was talking about Wharf 359. I really enjoyed it.
Shit from Chicago.
Yeah, but did not need the sound effects. Did not need the sound effects in the background. We didn't need to know that there was a battle going on and all that stuff. Yeah. This whole idea of he's remembering it. It's, I've watched Jaws recently, and the Indianapolis scene is still amazing. And there's not one fucking sound effect in that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You don't need it. Yeah. The actor, is it Todd Stashwick?
Yes.
Stashwick. Captain Shaw was brilliant.
Yeah.
Really a shame they killed him off, but
did they?
Yeah,
did they?
Because they keep making sort of comments about Terry Matalas.
Well, it's so that 7 of 9 could take over the captain's chair. I mean, I think it would Legacy would certainly have been far more interesting if we still had the Shaw 7 and 9 going.
Dynamic, yeah.
Yeah, and and it was nice to have a character who wasn't sort of enamored with everything,
Mhm.
and had real reasons for why he wouldn't refer to 7 of 9 by her Borg designation, and why he had such disregard for Picard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was, that was kind of cool, and it tied up with Benjamin Sisko and the whole, Dominion War and stuff. And I thought that was a really nice touch. But I thought the sound effects in the background was not needed. It did feel like the sound editor that day was like, well, this is my job. I do sound effects. We've got to have sound effects in it. It's like, no, you shouldn't. The performance alone was good enough. It was the Indianapolis speech for Star Trek. Should have just left it alone. It was great, just didn't need the sound effects.
Yep, I think that's a fair comment. I mean, I don't hate it, but I know what you mean.
It wasn't needed. I mean, it takes away from the performance. It is not needed. I mean, it was a great scene, and you don't need, as I say, it's a nitpick for me, but I just felt that the sound effects was a bit too much.
Fair enough. That's fair. I've got one thing that clearly, because I've not seen anything anywhere else about this, so clearly this is a thing that only bothers me and doesn't bother anyone else. And I can see why they've done it, although this might be a bit controversial for me to bring up. But how do you guys all feel about the Titan getting renamed the Enterprise G?
Well, I think I
was asking Graham. No, I'm joking. Sorry.
I love it.
Yeah. No.
All hail me.
No, Eddie, I was kidding. Sorry. Carry on.
Well, I think like you, I was thinking, oh, they're going to call it the Picard. Oh,
yes.
G. Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
They could have then called the series Star Trek Picard,
Absolutely.
still, right? But also, I mean, I guess they want to have the future voyages of the Enterprise. I get why they've done it.
Yeah. I can see that, I suppose. But then there are lots of other ships, and it would have been quite fun for it to be called Picard. I think there was a good precedent. I mean, we had the Hikaru Sulu as one of the ships there, and I'm sure there's a USS Kirk somewhere.
Yeah, and a Pulaski. There was the
US.
Was
there?
There was that was an audio cue rather
yes.
than a visual one. But
absolutely. So I think that would have been good. And as you say, that would have been, they could have carried on calling the series. This is apparently one of the reasons that when they changed the character in Midsummer Murders, there is a relevance to this. Let me.
What?
But apparently on the continent they call it Inspector Barnaby or something like that. So when John Nettles left it, they had to bring in his second cousin twice removed who had the same name, and that was the explanation for how they did it. And so, but this is a much more legitimate reason to continue calling the series Picard if it's the name of the ship. It would have been fantastic.
I thought it would have been a nice compliment to the character as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it would have been a nice compliment to all of the lines they had about right before that, how names matter and names are important, and names carry honor and dignity. And I was like, oh crap, they're going to name it the Picard, right?
Yes, exactly.
Because they're building up to him. And then it's like, if I was Picard in that moment, I would have been like, oh, that's nice. Okay.
Exactly.
To be honest, I thought you were going somewhere else, but okay, that's nice too.
I mean, I don't know if I missed anything, but did the Enterprise F get destroyed or something?
Apparently, yes.
They
Oh,
don't
yeah.
mention what happened.
Captain or Admiral Shelby was on that, right?
Well, yeah, I know she got killed by a crew because you see that on the view screen, but I didn't think the ship itself was destroyed.
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe.
I just felt that was. I
it's,
just felt that was a bit unnecessary. I mean, they could continue to keep calling it the Titan. They didn't
Call it
need
the
to change the
Picard.
name.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it was also,
Yeah.
I mean,
Hold on, we just got a comment here. I think that
Yeah.
like the Titan A becoming the Enterprise D would have been better if the ship had more personality. It was too clean, shiny Discovery. Like, yeah.
Dark.
And the F was to be decommissioned. Okay, yeah.
Oh, right.
but why? It wasn't that old.
Yeah.
I mean, I find all this very odd. I mean, you could say, okay, it's not canon, but the technical manual for the Enterprise D, written by, which was written originally written as to help people writing for the original series. It said that the Enterprise D had a design life of 50 years or more,
Right.
and so that and they wrote it off after 7 and said, "Oh no, well, let's have a completely new ship that looks completely different."
Yeah.
It
does sound like it's a studio note. I personally think it just sounds like a studio note. It's like, well, we've got Enterprise. It's a name that everybody knows, and so, and I think they may have just lost their nerve and went, okay, we'll give the studio that one instead of, I think, which is a much better idea of what you guys come up with, calling it the Picard.
Yeah.
I,
Eddie, in terms of your thing about the E as well, being different, I think the in canon explanation for that was it was designed to be a ship to take on the Borg.
Yes, I see that, and I think that that's probably true for a lot of the sort of redesign for various things. And my headcanon is that's the explanation for why the phasers are so massive, is because they're supposed to be able to be so that they could be used against the Borg.
Love it.
But
Scott here said that the F was so chubby and that it looked like a plump Voyager.
Well, it's but I mean that again, that's quite, in terms of design, not having a neck which is a weak point. That you've never seen that happen, but what's to stop somebody sort of firing on the neck, as it were, and then separate? I know the saucer might be able to work on its own, but that's if it's if it's flown off, not if it's just shot off. So it's an odd design.
I knew I'd get you going with this, Eddie. I knew it. Graham, I have to ask you. You must be happy they named it the Enterprise G, right?
Well, I texted, didn't I? I mean, they've gone and done it. Huzzah! I'm just more than happy with that. But yes, I absolutely. But joking aside, it's still. Yes, I think they were building up to it being Picard. I had a feeling at the time, if they did, I may have rolled my eyes. It would have been too sentimental. It was more apt and historic to change to an Enterprise, and I'm really glad in the way they put it together is that Jean-Luc Picard's reaction was one of pride. I think him reacting that way to Picard may just have tilted towards sentimentality over this as well. Because you discussed it earlier about the fact that these ships are characters in themselves. I've always thought that right from original series, the Enterprise and other ships have always been a major character. So to continue the Enterprise legacy, and to go and create a G. It wouldn't have mattered if they'd blown up the G and became an H. It would have to be the next one. So fully behind that completely. And I was pleased they went that way. But I can totally understand your take on it being Picard. I can't argue against that. I'm just pleased that they went there and didn't go too sentimental.
Sure.
I think the other thing that I find a little odd is that it was it began as the Titan A, because generally,
that's something.
Generally, the only reason that the Enterprise started having letters was because the original the 1701 Enterprise was so iconic that they retained the serial number and then started designating it A through to G. But all I can say is that the H and the I are going to have to last for a while, because I think, is it the J was from quite far in the future?
Yeah, the 32nd, was it the 29th? No, the 29th century.
29th century, yes. So they're going to have to keep the G, H, and I for a few years. Have to keep them going for a few years if they immediately name ships. Speaking as somebody in the Royal Navy, there's usually a gap between the names of ships. Although they carry on, they have
it's the 30th.
The 30th. There's usually a gap between them, but in Star Trek there is no gap. They just straight on. But
right.
with the Titan A, I wondered what Riker had done with the Titan that was so iconic that they kept the serial number for that.
Actually, I know we're getting really nerdy here, but you have just
answered. No, you're not.
You've just answered something that always was a question I had, actually, and you've kind of answered it, Eddie. Because what I didn't get is when the Defiant was destroyed and they christened another ship Defiant, that they didn't take the registry number, it was just the name, right?
Yeah.
So I always thought that was weird. I always thought, why is it not the Defiant A? Now I know the answer. There you go. So that's cool. And apparently Worf did something with the Enterprise E, they imply.
Yes,
right?
yes. Yeah. But I quite like the fact that we never find out what.
Well, that'll be in a comic or a novel, won't it?
Oh, yeah. Really? Yeah, definitely.
Well, probably Michael Dorn is pushing to have a... Well, here's the thing. This leads me into this a little bit about the future, right? Obviously, the only reason we got Strange New Worlds, to be fair, is because of that's what fans wanted, and the producers did actually listen, because the Pike and the Enterprise and everything that we saw in Discovery season 2 was considered by most the best thing out of Discovery season 2, hence why it spun off its show. Do you think that we are going to get this Star Trek, third generation, or the legacy, or whatever they're going to call it? Do you think that's likely?
It's beautifully lined up. It's us fans have asked for it. Whether it is going to happen, it's more of a hope, isn't it? Unless you guys have got any news that snuck out recently.
No, but I think it's going to probably happen because they're just churning this stuff out so they can put it onto streaming.
Well, I mean, I gather that the two series that they've got in the pipeline, stand fast the writers' strike in the States at the moment, are an Academy series and a Section 31 series.
You are absolutely right.
But apparently, Section 31 is that's a special movie, isn't it? So that's definitely going ahead. I suspect it may already have been filmed. I might be making that up. I don't know. But So certainly the one that they want to develop is the Academy one, but the fan reaction is nobody's interested in that. They want Picard, Legacy rather.
Right.
As I said, they only had something like 30,000 people signing a petition for Strange New Worlds, but it doubled that already for a Legacy series. So
Yeah.
I think they, if they've got any sense, that's what they'll do.
Yeah. No, I just want to call out. Sorry, Jaden Smith Eyes said only just now is it getting nerdy. Which, no, I mean that was kind of what prompted the question a little bit. Is if they're going to do these special movie events, do you think it's possible that we might see, like for example, Worf on the Enterprise E as a special movie event? If they're going to do things like that.
It's been happening over at Disney with MCU with Werewolves, Werewolf at Night, and it was the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special as well. So, there's, they've got the platforms, they've got the studios, they've got everything, a lot of the assets already built. They've got guys that can contract as well on there. So it's only them. Meaning the studios who can stop this really, and obviously make it so. So thank you. I'm here all night. There's a lot of good stories there. I feel that can be told, and I think there's back to the question there, Keith, is that with Legacy they've already set up, they've already established some of the characters, or at least foundations of the characters, right? They've put them together. They've even put them under pressure and seen them come out the other side. And it is very much that, and let's be honest too, these guys are younger, so you could really get a few years out of them. Let's be honest there. You I know I'm being quite morbid here, but you couldn't really continue with Picard. Michael Dorn is quite old now too, and there's all those guys. But these guys, you could there, So, and if Terry Metalis, who is a fan, not to put too much pressure on him, but if he's making Star Trek that is in the future, that is by a fan, you're going to get something that is more Star Trek, maybe even, dare I say it, more Roddenberry-esque.
Yeah.
There's one for you, Graham. Scotty has said Captain 7 of 9 taps her comm badge and says, "Beam me up, G."
Well, there's a lot of G around the spot and all the rest of it we really could delve into. But this is not the show, is it, Keith?
Well, there you go. No,
I like that. Yes,
it goes back to that. No, I'm not even going.
No.
Anyway, cool. Well, I guess what the next thing I'm going to ask you guys is, because even though we could literally talk all night about this, I am conscious that we really need to sort of maybe keep it around the 2-hour mark, and we've been going about an hour and 40 something. So I think we need to draw a line. So for those of you that have watched myself and Pete do these episodes before, that we have something on this show that we call the rank pin rating system. And obviously myself and Pete have already done this, unless Pete's changed his mind since we've done it. But
nope.
Okay, easy answer. But I am very interested to know how you guys are going to rank Star Trek Picard Season 3. Where would you go with it? Let's start with Simon. Where are you on this journey?
I'm going to rate it as a captain.
Okay. Wow. Love it.
Because, watching it, as I said before, I come from it from the point of view of cynicism. because I've sat through Discovery seasons 1 and 2, was very disappointed, and then watched season 1 of Picard and was just like, what the hell? So it was great to finally, as I say, they did a series where you wanted to know what was happening, what was going to happen next. Yeah, I know they went back to the tropes of Rafa Khan and the Borg, but I think it was different enough and enjoyable enough that it was, I was quite happy to sit through all that stuff. I thought the fan service was in aid of the story and not just there to say, hey, look, remember this? Yeah, it was just, I felt the Next Generation crew had something to do and they weren't just there in the background. I mean, I heard that Gates McFadden was very unhappy with the films because she hardly did anything in them. Everybody else seemed to have a part to play, even though the films seemed to center around mostly Picard and Data. How they brought Data back, I thought it was fine, and it certainly that was his Brent Spiner's moment. It is weird that they want him back, but they want to kill him. That is, just after seeing Picard season 1, it's just like, what do they want to do with him? I know it's he's aged, so he can never be the Data from the series. So they always have to come up with reasons for for him aging. But then there was the whole thing in All Good Things where he was putting grey in his hair to make himself older.
Yeah, it looks like a bloody skunk.
Yeah. So he could have. Yeah, they could have just said, well, he decided to let himself go a bit, make him look age appropriate. But no, it was really well done. It was, as I say, thrilling. It felt like Star Trek, which everything else so far of New Trek has not. And I was I personally want to go back and watch it again. Oh,
well, that's really good to hear from you, Simon, because obviously, when we were a few weeks back when we did the Mandalorian, you didn't have such kind things to say for good reason, I think. But no, it's good to hear that you like this so much. And your point about Data in the first season kind of supports my whole thing about this, about how sadly this season was slightly hampered by the first 2 seasons, and could have been, if certain things hadn't already been done in those seasons, this would have been even more amazing. And it's funny, I think of this being hampered by those first 2 seasons in the same way as I actually think Strange New Worlds is hampered by the Discovery elements. But yeah, no, I like that. Thank you.
I just want to add one more thing. I'm really happy that Patrick Stewart was not allowed to have any input into this. So happy. Because he is partly the reason why those first 2 seasons of Picard were terrible. Absolutely.
Yeah. Before I ask you, Eddie, just because he's been so interactive, Scotty R37 has said, I would give Picard season 3 a lieutenant. I'm actually quite surprised by that. I thought you might have said a bit higher, but you've also gone on to say, I will also watch it again. I may get the Blu-ray. Oh, well, check out Home Media Minefield for that when you do. Eddie, I'd be interested to know where you rank this as a true next-gen purist.
Well, I'd go with a rank that never appeared in The Next Generation, but has reappeared in Picard Season 3 with Geordie as Commodore.
Oh, okay. Wow. So that's okay, that's more than a captain then.
Indeed.
Love it.
Yeah. Okay. No, absolutely. No, I think Picard season 3 was everything that I've been waiting for years. And the fact that the Enterprise D came back as well was just the absolute icing on the cake. So I loved it. I think it was
I only wish Terry Metalis was listening to hear that, Eddie. I really do, because that is a compliment indeed. So
I would very happily tell him to his face. Yeah, absolutely. It was it was everything. It's everything. It's definitely the Star Trek series that I've wanted to see for a long time. So fantastic. Yeah, it couldn't. There were things that could have been added to it even more, but as a true swan song for the original series cast, I think it was amazing. I think it's really good that they managed to get them all back, except for Wesley. I'm sorry about that.
Next Generation season 8, then, in your opinion?
I mean, I think it's one thing we haven't mentioned particularly is that I understand that they were filmed back to back with season 2, which I think was quite interesting. So they was reusing sets, and it was done on the cheap. So
I know they had to be tighter with budget for sure this season, and when you think that they actually rebuilt that Enterprise bridge, it wasn't a green screen or a volume AI wall or anything like that. It was the real deal. So yes, Scotty has put in there that all good things will always be my send off, and I think that is a very fair comment as well. Okay. Let's just try. I think we lost Simon there again. Let's just see if we can beam him back again, guys. You know what we've got to say, right? Oh, maybe not. He's disappeared again.
Oh.
We'll
try him in a minute.
Enhance the pattern buffer.
Yes, indeed.
So increase the matter gain.
Oh, here we go. I think he's back. What have you got to say, guys?
Make it so.
Oh, I'm very pleased with that. Welcome back, Simon. Okay, Graham, where are you sitting with this whole ranking situation? I said ranking, by the way.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's very close.
I don't have a speech impediment, fortunately. So that's good.
I'm going Commander with this series.
Okay. What, you mean you're not going to wear trousers? We're not going to wear underwear?
Who says I am now? But I'm not going to stand up. Reason, it wasn't perfect, even though it was highly entertaining. We had some beautiful moments, a lot of thrills too. So it's way up there, but I couldn't go cover it, even though Eddie really has trumped us all by bringing in the Commodore ranking. Tip of the hat there, sir. But I am also comparing this to my much loved, my beloved Strange New Worlds, because that is just Trek I'd been waiting for years, and it is happening. So if I had to compare the two, especially, definitely Picard wouldn't even get above Commander now. However, even with Commander, a commander is always striving to be captain. So even Legacy, which would flow from Picard, could easily become a captain. So there is that hope there too.
And I would expect nothing else from a man who sat there wearing a gold captain's top. So there you go. A TOS Strange New Worlds era captain's top, because we all know that they're red in Picard's time, right?
Absolutely.
The red shirt changed, yeah. Pete, can you remember what your rank was?
I believe I was Lieutenant Commander.
Lieutenant Commander, fair enough. And I know I was a captain, I believe, wishful
Yeah.
thinking probably on my part. But yes, I was a captain for that. We've lost Simon again. Our transport is not doing so well today, is it?
Yeah, he keeps turning his laptop upside down.
There you go. That's great. Well, have you got, before I sort of bring things to a wrap, have you got anything else that you just want to say or add? I will give you obviously the opportunity to promote stuff if you want to, but anything that you want to add about Star Trek Picard before
One thing we had mentioned, but again we could talk for hours here, is the use of the characters. And we did have the comedy Worf, great, but Deanna Troi using her Betazoid abilities is the best I have ever seen, and even clawing back and going back to TNG a few times now. In comparison, she looked utterly useless in that. Here in Picard season 3, it was excellent how she drew out memories for Jack as well. And I thought that was absolutely excellent to really get a character and explore not powers but abilities there, and have something that made sense rather than just, oh well, Marina Sirtis hasn't had much to do. There was none of that. It really serviced the story. So there was a highlight.
No, fair enough. Scotty R37 is agreeing there by saying Troy was great. I care for Deanna.
Absolutely, there's a lot there.
Good.
Totally agree.
And Jaden has warned us that one of these times Simon will come back with his head on backwards. So let's put that theory to a quick test. And what's the word again, guys?
Spaceballs.
Make it so.
Make it so.
It worked.
He's on his head. He was right. Oh no. Are you okay, Simon? You're looking a bit tough. Now we know how Luke Skywalker felt in the Wampa cave. Yeah. Oh, wrong franchise. Right. Okay. So I am gonna let's just open a channel real quick. Okay, guys, I want to give you all the opportunity. If there's anything, you don't have to, but if there's anything you want to promote, or if you want to give details of how people can find you, now would be a good time. So, Simon, you're a busy man, I know, with projects. Where can people find your work and watch them?
Well, you can find my work on Amazon. I have 2 feature films on there, Blood and Roses and Modern Love. One of which stars a certain Key Files. You may have heard of him. And of course, and yes, I have a website, independentrunnings.com. And you can find the rest of my work there, and you can find me through the sort of usual socials.
Fair enough. Eddie, anything? I don't know. I know you're a private Star Trek fan, but is there anything you want to promote or anything on here?
I don't do anything clever and technical like all of you to promote, I'm afraid. But yeah, I enjoy it. I've seen your film, Simon. So
oh, thank you.
And yeah, I watch Keith's career with interest.
Yes. Do I have one? Is the question.
Well,
yeah. There you go. Thanks, Eddie. G, I know you're writing various projects, etc. Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah. So I'm still producing, meaning I'm still creating. So main output continues to be my debut novel, Where the River Bends, it's called, and that's a modern Western, but based in my beloved Wales there. So still working through that, and when it is ready, and ready for the world, then I'll be promoting it from then.
Great.
Is that American Cowboys in Wales?
Yes, but less cowboys. It has another female
Cowboyos.
protagonist.
Cowboyos.
No cowboyos. Easy there, Tiger. No, yeah. So
they're really sheep farmers.
There you go. You see.
Sheep boys? Yeah.
They're going to be like City Slickers, but with sheep.
Awesome.
Shitty Slickers. Yeah, there we go. Pete, what about you? Anything you want to promote?
No, not at this moment. I just I'm looking forward to Graham's novel. Yeah. Should I go into this?
Please do.
Like Keith mentioned, we run a podcast on occasion talking about this Star Trek stuff. You can check us out at LSWOT Cast on all good social medias. Drop us a line, lswotcast@gmail.com. Keith, where can people find more of you and your good work?
Yeah, well, you're obviously on this channel, British Isles. Home Media Minefield. Sorry, but my other channel, YouTube channel, is British Isles. That's EYLES, as in my last name. If you look on there, I've got some short films, an anthology called The Urban Chiller Tales. So please check that out. I'm always trying to get more views for that. Also, check out more of the work on this channel. As I mentioned, we've got physical media unboxings. We cover the Star Trek movies on Blu-ray, for example, as well as the recent release of Strange New Worlds Season 1 on Blu-ray as well. We cover The Mandalorian and Star Wars projects and stuff on some of the video streams here. But I do want to give a shout out to Neil Myers, who does the theme music that we use for this. Neil's excellent work can be found at neilmyersmusic.com. And also a shout out to William McLaughlin, who does our logo for this series. William's work can be found at wasm_official. So just wanted to give him a shout out as well, because I think that's important. Scotty R37 is put, my first album was called Welsh Cowboys in Canada. There you go, Graham. That's
an idea for the sequel.
Playlist.
They go traveling.
And I really want to thank everybody. I know there's been a few people watching live this evening, and a couple of you obviously commenting and becoming interactive and whatever with it. I really do appreciate that, and I appreciate the comments, etc. So with that being the case, that just leaves me to thank my guests for coming on. I don't know about you guys, but I've had a lot of fun today, and I hope you guys have too. And I really appreciate it. And we will see you at some point. Stay tuned. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon and stuff for more content. I do have a retrospective coming up soon, celebrating 40 years of the V mini-series, and I've got some guests lined up for that have not been on the show before, that are involved in that area. So stay tuned for more information on that, probably sometime in June. Also, we do have Strange New Worlds coming to the screen on June 15th on Paramount Plus. We will be covering the show in the similar format. So if that's something you want to get involved in and watch, then please do so. But that just leaves me to say thank you. And we will see you next time on
Let's see what's out there.
Bye for now.
Cheerio.